Okay, we'll leave it there. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. And Mr. Gelman, I'd like to carry on with something you just mentioned there. So you said you had a target to find $360 million through audit, and you found 560. Did I get that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Of that 560 in tax finding, how much has been collected?
So of the $500 million, we don't have an exact calculation. What I can tell you is last fiscal year, our collections program collected 96.7% of all funds that were outstanding. So they closed 96.7%. The challenge we have, so we don't have an exact number, and the reason we don't have an exact calculation is because many of these taxpayers owe us debt for multiple years on multiple accounts, and they don't pay it off all at once. So you have a multiple of debts and a multiple of payments. We are committed to providing an estimate. This is a question that's been asked in the media and been asked by parliamentarians, and the agency is now working on an estimate. So I hope the next time we're here or shortly thereafter, we'll be able to give you a percentage estimate of what we've collected, because it's very difficult to give you.
I look forward to that, and clearing a file is not the same as collecting either, and that's an important distinction, because writing off a file as uncollectible or as one that would likely not survive the objection process is another way to clear a file. So finding tax is one thing, collecting the actual money is something else.
Your point is very well taken. I will make a point with respect to litigation, though. Some of these tax professionals are very creative, and some of our work in the CRA is policing the acceptable limits of tax planning, and sometimes we need to litigate and even lose to establish that the law needs to be clarified, and that's why we work very closely with the Department of Finance with respect to closing tax loopholes. So I think I would just caution that sometimes when the CRA identifies an amount and we lose in tax court, it ends up leading to the right thing, which is a legislative change which closes the loophole and stops the tax leakage.
Okay.
The bells are ringing, which is way earlier than expected. It's a 30-minute bell. Are we okay to go? Do we have unanimous consent to go till 10 minutes short of voting time? Agreed? Okay. Go ahead, Pat. You've got lots of time left.
Okay. What is the general trend line on the time with which it takes to see for a notice of objection to go through the CRA appeal process for small businesses, for corporate tax filers, small business corporate tax filers?
We're going to have, so my colleague who has carriage of that file has briefed recently that there's been progress since the OEG was here. The action plan that the CRA set up in the wake of the OEG audit is coming across, but I don't have the exact number today.
Okay. I've spoken to tax preparers across Canada, and the number that seems to keep coming up is about 18 months. And I'm curious as to whether that's getting better or worse, and if you have the ability to determine the exact number. On the disability tax credit, do you know what the current time frame, this is probably a question for Mr. Grattan, what's the current time to have a disability tax credit application assessed?
Currently takes between 6 and 8 weeks.
Sorry, we're down to?
Between 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks. There was a commitment made to review all of the DTC applications that were declined between May and roughly December, when the clarification letter was reverted back to the earlier one before May 2nd. Have all of those assessments been done, or what is the backlog currently?
The large majority of those have been done. There's only a handful where we're still waiting for the reply from the medical practitioner. So we have undertaken that review.
How many of them were there?
A little over 2,200. I think 2,267.
Okay. How many were reversed on re-examination?
Well, we haven't got finalized results, and we'd like to run those by the Disability Advisory Committee. So we plan to do that the next meeting, have them look at it, and then make that information public. What I can tell you is that when you look at the acceptance rate pre-May 2017 versus post-May 2017, after we've done the review, the acceptance rates are virtually identical. So I believe the review has been very successful.
So you have the data, but you're not prepared to share it with this committee?
We haven't finalized the data, so I'd like to finalize the data because if we release preliminary data and still waiting for some, then that's going to create confusion when we release the final ones.
Not quite complete then.
It's not quite complete.
The reassessment.
We're waiting for a handful of them where we've sent letters to the medical practitioners where we're trying to get some additional information.
Okay. Then quickly on audit, one of the concerns that has been raised with me from professional tax preparers across Canada is the issue of quality of audits. And I've heard this from different regions of the country, from all kinds of different preparers, some who even identify as strident supporters of the governing party. And they tell me that the quality of audit is deteriorating and that this is causing the backlog in appeals, and that the comment from one accountant was, I've had more audits of my own clients in the last year than the previous 30 years combined, and they're almost all of them, the agency is wrong in a matter of law and a matter of fact, and it's a question of then having to go through the appeal, which takes a long time and is extremely upsetting to the taxpayer. These types of criticism, what would you say in comment on that?
I think I'll go to the crux of the matter, which is the difference between an accounting opinion, a legal opinion, and a litigation opinion. And the agency, particularly in the branch that I lead, is working to get litigation eyes on files before we issue proposal letters to taxpayers. So I think there is some truth that a legal opinion isn't the same as a litigation opinion. And with the multinationals and the high work,
accountants are complaining about, in many cases, fairly routine stuff.
So in that area, we have implemented a standardized national quality assurance process where all audits are subject to quality review, and we have a fairly high rate of quality review. For new auditors, it nears 100%. For experienced auditors, they're at 20 or 30%, and that is real-time quality assurance. This does take place before we reassess a taxpayer. And so there are quality controls built in. I think it is true we have some issues with respect to litigation and the difference of evidence, but our statistics in terms of change rates and appeal rates don't show an upward trend with respect to small business and medium business and eroding quality.
Okay. Thank you.
That'll leave it there. We're well over. Mr. Dusso.